Hi everyone. For this material, we are starting our discussion on consolidated financial statements, which is primarily governed by PFRS 10. This first part, Chapter 4, focuses on the basic consolidation procedures and the related standards are PFRS 10 and PFRS 12 for disclosure of interest in other entities. The main things you will learn in this chapter are the following: identifying the elements of control, preparing consolidated financial statements at the acquisition date, and preparing the consolidated financial statements at a subsequent date. So let's start with some key definitions as per PFRS 10, starting with what a parent is. And when we say parent, this is an entity that controls one or more entities, while a subsidiary is an entity that is controlled by another entity. And when we say a group, this is simply a parent and its subsidiaries. The consolidated financial statements are the financial statements of a group where the assets, liabilities, income, expenses, and cash flows of the parent and its subsidiaries are presented as those of a single economic entity. So note that PFRS 3 governs the accounting at the acquisition date, while PFRS 10 takes over for the subsequent preparation and presentation of the consolidated financial statements. So generally, all parent entities are required to prepare consolidated financial statements. However, there are few exemptions. And if a parent meets all of the following criteria, then the parent will be exempted. So what are those criteria? First, if it's a subsidiary itself, either wholly or partially owned, and its other owners don't object to non-presentation. Its debt or equity instrument are not traded in a public market, and its ultimate or intermediate parent produces consolidated financial statements that are publicly available and comply with the Philippine Financial Reporting Standards. So note in your reference book, exemptions also apply to certain post-employment benefit plans. So the fundamental basis for consolidation is control. And we can say that an investor controls an investee when it has all three of the following elements. First is power over the investee. Second is exposure or rights to variable returns from its involvement. And third is the ability to affect those returns through the use of its power. Importantly, only one entity is identified to have control over an investee, and if multiple investors collectively control an investee, meaning they must act together, then none of them individually controls the investee. So we have here a diagram that shows the relationship of the elements of control. We have the first element, power. So an investor has power when it has existing rights that give it the current ability to direct the investee's relevant activities. And when we say relevant activities, these are those that significantly affect the investee's returns, and this could be activities like making operating and capital decisions, appointing, remunerating, and terminating key management personnel. And the second element is we have the exposure or rights to variable returns. So an investor must be exposed or have a right to returns that vary depending on the investee's performance. And these are what we call variable returns. And the third element in between power and variable returns is the ability to use power to affect investors' returns. So this is the link between the first two elements. So the investor must have the ability to use its power over the investee to affect its returns. So control exists only if an investor has all three elements: power, exposure to variable returns, and the ability to affect returns through power. So the diagram illustrates the flow. Power and variable returns both lead to the ability to affect returns, which then results in control. For the actual consolidation process, we need to consider some requirements. And we have three. The first one is on the accounting policies. So the group must use uniform accounting policies. So if ever a subsidiary uses a different policies, then its financial statements must be adjusted to conform to the parent's policies before consolidation. So in your reference book, you have an example that shows that the parent uses the revaluation model and the subsidiary uses the cost model, then the subsidiary's property must be adjusted to the revaluation model. For the reporting dates, the parent and its subsidiaries should generally use the same reporting date. If their reporting dates don't coincide, then the subsidiary must prepare financial statements for a period that does coincide before consolidation. The difference between the reporting dates is not allowed to exceed 3 months. And for the consolidation period, consolidation begins when the investor obtains control and ceases when the investor loses control. The consolidated financial statements will only include the subsidiary's results of operations for the period during which the parent had control. For your discussion question, so write your answer or enter your answer in discussion question portion in Moodle before the deadline. So the question is, who is the father of accounting? So for the measurement of income and expenses, the subsidiary's income and expenses are based on the acquisition date amounts of assets and liabilities recognized in the consolidated financial statements. For example, depreciation expense is based on the related assets acquisition date fair value and not the subsidiary's carrying amount. For the investment in subsidiary, in the parent's separate financial statements, the investment in a subsidiary can be accounted for using three methods, either at cost, in accordance with PFRS 9 financial instruments, or using the equity method. For the non-controlling interest in net assets of the subsidiary, so again, the non-controlling interest is the portion of the subsidiary not owned by the parent, and in the consolidated statement of financial position, the NCI is presented with inequity, but separate from the equity of the owners of the parent. The NCI in the net assets of the subsidiary consists of the amount determined at the acquisition date using PFRS 3 and the NCI share in the subsidiary's changes in equity since the acquisition date. While for the NCI in profit or loss and comprehensive income, the total comprehensive income is attributed to the two groups of owners of the parent and the non-controlling interest. So this attribution happens even if it results in the non-controlling interest having a deficit balance. In preparing the consolidated financial statements, the consolidated financial statements are prepared by combining the financial statements line by line and adding together similar items of assets, liabilities, equity, income, and expenses. So how do we do the consolidation at the date of acquisition? The procedures at the acquisition date are simpler and involve two main steps. First is to eliminate the investment in subsidiary account, and this involves measuring the subsidiary's identifiable assets and liabilities at their acquisition date fair values. recognizing the goodwill from the business combination, and eliminating the subsidiaries recombination equity accounts and replacing them with the non-controlling interest in net assets. And then second is to add line by line similar items of assets and liabilities of the combining entities. Note that the subsidiaries' assets and liabilities are included at 100% of their amounts, irrespective of the parent's ownership interest. So on page 136 of your reference book, we have a practical example of consolidation at the acquisition date where ABC Company, the parent, acquires 80% interest in XYZ Incorporated, the subsidiary. The solution follows two main steps. Step 1 is to eliminate the investment in subsidiary account, and this step has three parts. First is to measure subsidiaries' assets and liabilities at the acquisition date fair values. Correspondingly, the inventory increases from 23,000 to 31,000. The equipment net increases from 40,000 to 48,000. And then the second part is to recognize the goodwill. Goodwill is determined to be 3,000. And then the third step is to replace the subsidiaries recombination equity with the NCI in net assets. So if you can see, the subsidiaries equity, share capital, share premium, retained earnings are now eliminated. And the NCI of 18,000 is recognized. So that is for step 1 in eliminating the investment in subsidiary account. And then for step 2, you add line by line similar items. So adding the parent's balances to the subsidiaries adjusted fair value balances, you will have consolidated balances for the accounts such as cash, AR, inventory, investment in the investment in subsidiary is eliminated, equipment, goodwill, with total assets totaling to 359,000. And then continuing the step 2 by adding liabilities and equity. Okay? So the key takeaways for this illustration is that 100% of the subsidiaries' assets and liabilities are included, even though the parent only holds 80%. Okay? And this is based on the following principles: substance over form, wherein the parent controls the whole subsidiary, and the entity theory, wherein the group is viewed as a single reporting entity. Second note or key takeaway is that the subsidiaries recombination equity accounts, which includes share capital, share premium, retained earnings, are eliminated in full. The equity accounts in the consolidated financial statements pertain only to the owners of the parent. And then the NCI account represents the equity of the other owners. And lastly, the consolidated equity structure reflects the equity of the legal parent. For the procedures for consolidation subsequent to the acquisition date, so this involved two main steps, similar to the previously discussed, eliminating the investment account and then adding line by line the assets, liabilities, income, and expenses. However, this time the changes in the subsidiaries' net assets since the acquisition date are considered. And this will involve 5 steps. Step 1 is the analysis of the subsidiaries' net assets. Step 2 is the goodwill computation. Step 3 is the NCI net assets. Step 4 is the consolidated retained earnings. And then step 5 is the consolidated profit or loss. For the analysis of subsidiaries' net assets, So the first thing to do is to analyze the changes in the subsidiaries' net assets since the acquisition date. And to simplify the process, you can use these formulas. The net asset at fair value amounts at the acquisition date, consolidation date, and the net change are the key figures used in the subsequent steps. And then the goodwill that is reported in the post-combination financial statements is the amount determined at the acquisition date, less any accumulated impairment losses. So you have here the formula for goodwill when NCI is measured at proportionate share, the one on the left, and then the formula for goodwill on the right is when the NCI is measured at fair value. For step 3, the non-controlling interest is computed based on the subsidiary's net assets at fair value at the reporting date and then multiplied by the NCI percentage and adding goodwill attributable to NCI if in case the NCI is measured at fair value. And then in determining the consolidated retained earnings, you will account for the parent's retained earnings at consolidated date and the parent's share in the net change in the subsidiary's net assets. Both the parent and the NCI share in the post-combination change in the subsidiary's net assets. The parent's share is included in the retained earnings while the NCI share is included in the NCI. And then for step 5, the consolidated profit or loss. So this is computed adjusting for the amortization of the fair value adjustments. So the consolidated profit is then attributed to the owners of the parent and the non-controlling interest. After those 5 steps, you will now have all the information needed to draft the consolidated financial statements. So recall the consolidation procedures. First is to eliminate the investment account, and this will include measuring the subsidiaries' assets and liabilities at their fair value acquisition date, at their acquisition date fair values, net of depreciation, then recognizing goodwill, and then replacing the subsidiaries' equity accounts with the NCI net assets. And then the second step is to add line by line the assets, liabilities, income, and expenses. In summary, the consolidated total assets will include the total assets to parent plus the total assets of subsidiary less the investment in subsidiary because this is eliminated, and then net fair value adjustment, goodwill recognized, and effect of intercompany transactions. While the consolidated liabilities or total liabilities will include the total liabilities of the parent, total liabilities of the subsidiary, any fair value adjustment, and any effect of intercompany transactions. And then for the consolidated statement of profit or loss, this will include the parent's profit and the subsidiary's profit less any depreciation of the fair value adjustment or addition if there will be overvaluation. So for chapter 4, let's just summarize the key concepts in consolidated financial statement. First is PFRS 10 requires a parent to prepare consolidated financial statements with limited exceptions. Second is the basis for consolidation is control, which requires power, exposure to variable returns, and the ability to affect returns through power. Third is the consolidation begins when control is obtained and ceases when control is lost, and then fourth is the consolidated financial statements are prepared using uniform accounting policies and the same reporting date. Okay? For the key equity concepts, consolidated retained earnings includes the parent's retained earnings plus the parent's share in the change in subsidiary's net asset since acquisition date, while the NCI net assets includes NCI at the acquisition date plus the NCI share in the change in net assets since acquisition date. The NCI is presented within equity but separate from the owners of the parent, while the consolidated profit or loss is attributed to the owners of the parent and the non-controlling interest.